is already been published or not, or been is available in the public domain. I am not sure, but you can check with ISRA.
I will, shukran, because that is something I'm thinking to do for my PhD
I see. Oh, it's good.
Yeah, but I need a reference point, and it's very hard to get any information about something like that.
Yep, yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam warahmatullah.
Just a rider to this is Brother Ali from Nigeria.
Yeah. You.
Thank you, Prof. Gafar, and all the coordinators. Yeah. Just a rider to the question by Sister Wahida. I wanted to say this is her own work, actually, to come up with a technology that will classify the product. But I'm also worried, even if that is done, not put too much emphasis on technology when it comes to the Sharia matters. Yeah. Because sometimes, Sharia depends on the circumstances, depend on the situation, depends on even who asks the question or at what situation. So the opinion given by ulama or at a certain period may differ with the changes in time. So while trying to develop any technology, it could be artificial intelligence. So please don't forget to take care of the time consideration and also the circumstances when the question is raised. So, but still, I'm worried about submitting everything to technology. That's my opinion.
Yes, thank you for your opinion. And I understand what you're saying, because here in Kenya, you might have a customer going to his imam to ask about a certain financial product, whereas the imam might have religious background knowledge. He doesn't have financial background knowledge. So there is a gap. But here we are seeking information from somebody who is not very well versed in finance, and we use their opinion to decide on whether to use a product or not to use it. So my thinking is there a way a technology can offer somebody like me with a question like that I can see different opinions for different times, and then I make my own informed decision about a product, an Islamic finance product?
All right, that's good.
Waalaikumsalam. Lagi repot nggak, Pak? Lagi meeting? Oh, gitu. Ya, yeah, ini non sewu tadi.
He's coming. Dr. Hakim is coming. He's joining soon.
Hello.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, yes, please. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hakimi. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you open for the discussion first? I will come back within the 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Presentation first, yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Widi, we start first, or we wait for 5 minutes?
No, we can proceed with presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, please. With the presentation.
The second session, we come with Miss Yuli Indasari and Mr. Widianto Mislan from Sultan Agung Islamic University. We'll talk about IMVI, internal fraud prevention, Islamic human capital development base. So please welcome Mrs. Yuli and Mr. Widianto to present your research.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you for Mr. Retas for the opportunity. So let me show you my PPT. So can you see my?
Not yet. Waiting.
Okay.
Okay, done.
Done. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity that given to me. My name is Yulinda Sari, and in here I'm not alone. With my partner, my spectacular partner, Mr. Widianto bin Mislan Cokro Hadi Sumarto. We come from Sultan Agung Islamic University, Semarang, Indonesia. And today I would like to present about my paper entitled I am EVI, Internal Fraud Prevention, Islamic Human Capital Development Base. So let me show you our outline in this presentation. So I need to talk about 5 important points in here. The first one about introduction, literature review, methodology, result and discussion, and the last one about the conclusion. So move on in the first point about introduction. So we know Islamic Microfinance Institution, or IMAY, it is one of financial institution that provide financial access and focus in micro community based on Islamic principle. And especially in Indonesia, based on some previous study and scholar, they explain that IMAY have some rules, such as they help Indonesia to reduce poverty, they provide financial usury-free service to the community and financing access to micro enterprise. And the last one, they are to be part of the effort about Islamic economic to our society. So that's why it is very important to preserve their existence. But based on some previous study, we found that fraud still happen in this institution and give a negative effect in their financial performance. So Sharia label it cannot guarantee this institution can be free from fraud. Move on research gap. So based on Stanwen 2000, he explained that fraud it is happen because the resource they are from internal source and external source, sorry. So internal source, it is carried out by the human resource who owned by IMAY, and external fraud, it is carried out by their client, their third parties who cannot fulfill their obligation. So support by KNKS 2019, they explained that one of the weakness to maintain the sustainability of IMA value, it is about the human resource issue, not only about the lack of the human resource competency, but also about the lack of their integrity and insecurity of human resource who commit financial abuse. So that's why in this paper, we want to focus in the internal fraud. And to solve this problem, some scholars suggest to taking a preventive initiative through improve the quality and capability of human resource, and support by some previous study such as Henry et al 2020, who examined and found that the quality of human resource has a positive effect on fraud prevention. And while SEIFA 2012, she found that the human resource department has a very vital role in preventing fraud through increasing the frequency of training, but is it based on the theoretical studies? So based on this discussion, we can conclude that the preventive initiative can be started from the human resources aspect. However, we found the gap in two previous study. They are from the Henry et al 2020. They have not explored the process to developing the quality of human resource practically, and the function of the Human Resource Department, as referred by PESEIFA 2012, is still a theoretical study. So that's why in this paper, exit and want to fulfill this gap and to find a model for implementing Islamic human capital development and its role in preventing fraud at IMAY. So next slide about the literature review. In this slide, I would like to tell you about 2 points. The first one about Baitul Tamil Muhammadiyah, or BTM as IMAY. So we know that Islamic microfinance bring to rapidly growing industry their microfinance and Islamic finance, sorry. And based on some previous studies, so many previous study, they found that IMAY can be able to reach the micro enterprise and provide a financing fund to help their business. So that's why in this paper, we want to introduce one of IMAY in Indonesia, as we call it Baitul Tamwil Muhammadiyah or BTM. Basically, BTM adopt the operational activity of Baitul Mal wa Tamwil. However, if Baitul Mal wa Tamwil focus in Baitul Mal and Tamwil, this institution, BTM, just focus in Tamwil activity. So they just providing financial access and channeling financing for the poor. And secondly, point that is about the relation between internal fraud prevention and Islamic human capital development. So in this paper, internal fraud is caused by the human resource who are dishonest and disobedient to regulation. And based on some previous study and scholar, they suggest to use the Islamic approach to increase the knowledge and spirituality of human resource, and this inter integration can improve and give impact in the fraud prevention system. Basically, Islamic human capital development in this paper, it is referred to all policies and procedures to develop the human resource, especially in improving their spirituality, their knowledge aspect, and their behavior. So next, that is about the methodology. We use qualitative approach with in-depth interview to collect the data, and to determine the sample, we use purposive sampling method with criteria PTM that is affiliated with Pusat PTM in Central Java with a good development and a few record of fraud based on the recommendation from Pusat PTM. So Pusat PTM it is the PTM center in Central Java, and based on this criteria, we found seven PTM head office from 7 cities. They are Pemalang, Temanggung, Pekalongan, Batang, Kaliwungu, Kendal, and Banjarnegara. So they have two different legal entity. They are LKMS, have auspicious to the Otoritas Jasa Keuangan or JK, and the second one it is about the KSPPS, have responsible to the Ministry of Cooperation and Small Business Enterprise. So each PTM have to send one manager to be our data provider, and PTM is under auspices of Muhammadiyah. Muhammadiyah is Islamic organization in Indonesia. So based on the decree from Muhammadiyah, that state that the one city can only have one head office. So this decree make some of this PTM did merger. So this merger policy have some rules to help BTM, such as they strengthening the presence of BTM. They have some rules to avoid cannibalism among PTM in one area. And the last one, they cure PTM who are experiencing a crisis. So finally, the next method to test the credibility and validity of resulting model, this paper use a member check method. So move on the result and discussion. In this slide, we would like to explain about the fraud in IMAY. We found that the fraud handling in PTM has two different characteristics. They are material fraud and non-material fraud. So material fraud related to the losses that can be felt in the short term in their financial performance, and non-material fraud it is related about the manipulation data and the losses that can be felt in the long term in their financial performance. So for non-material fraud, we found that PTM have a weekly detection system to prevent the non-material fraud. And we found several reasons why our fraud detection system in the BTM is very weak. There are four points in here. The first one about lack of knowledge in the management of the BTM operational system, inconsistent supervision. Thirdly, about the have not used IT system, and the last one, the occurrence of human resource intervention and unprofessionalism in carry out the financing procedure. So these four reasons not only make the increasing of fraud in BTM, but also bring this institution to experiencing a crisis. So that's why Muhammadiyah have given the decree to to do the merger policies. Okay, next about the Islamic human capital development pattern in BTM and its impact in the internal fraud prevention. Basically, we found three policies in here. There are policies implemented to increase the Fed aspect, and the second about knowledge aspect, and the last one about the behavior aspect. So for Fed aspect, we found that BTM tried to creating the Islamic environment. So these policies have goals to increase the awareness and morality of human resource regarding the negative effect of fraud from a and finally, this awareness will be reflected in improving human resource behavior and preventing fraud. And secondly, point is about the knowledge aspect. We found two aspects to be part of Islamic human capital development in BTM. They are first one independent and structural training. Training activity for independent. So for training, BTM have to program the independent training and structural training. You know, BTM it is under auspices of Muhammadiyah, so they have to program in training, independent training and training program provided by a structure network. The structure, so we found a new aspect in here, structure network. And if the quality and knowledge of human resource about work increases, they will got ability to detect and control fraudulent behavior at IMAY. And the last point that is about to increase or to improve the behavior of human resource. So in here, BTM more focus in the regulation, supervision, implementing SOP, and strictness of punishment. Okay, next, this the final model that we produce based on implemented practically. So this is internal fraud prevention model based on Islamic human capital development. So for Islamic human capital development, we found four aspects in here. They are Islamic environment, embedding Islamic value in operational regulation, knowledge sharing, and independent and structural training. For training, it is supported by a new aspect, they are network structural. So in this four aspect can give impact in the increasing spiritual awareness of human resource, knowledge, discipline, and moral. So we found another factor to support the impact of Islamic human capital in internal fraud prevention. There are a supervision of financing procedure, the implementation of SOP, and the strictness of punishment. So this integration can give impact in the improvement of detection system in BTM and give impact in the decreased frequency of fraud and also improve the human resource performance in their organization. So the last point is about conclusion. We found that IMAY, it is not only applied the Islamic principle into their operational activities, but also applied this Islamic value to developing their human capital. And we found in here four aspects in Islamic human capital development implemented by IMFY. They are Islamic environment, embedding Islamic values in operational regulation, knowledge sharing, and training, independent and structural. So practically, the policies taken into developing human capital are intended to develop spiritual aspect, knowledge aspect, and behavior. So, however, this developing have to support by another factor, they are structural network, provision of financing procedure, firmness in implementing SOP, and the last one, strict of punishment. I think that's all my presentation. So I'm going to give back the floor to Mr. Chairman. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Yuli and Mr. Widianto for the paper and the presentation. Now, the time for Mr. Muhammad
Okay.
Hakimi to give the discussion.
All right. Thank you for the presentation and also thanks to the chair session for this afternoon. Can you hear me, Liz? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you, Doctor.
Right. Okay. Thanks for the presentation, Yuli Indasari and also Dr. Widianto, which for me very good presentation to highlight about the importance of human resources in managing Islamic microfinance. And in this article, perhaps in order to tackle the issue of fraud, okay, the issue of fraud among Islamic microfinance institution. For me, this is a very good paper. And then I have two major things here that I want to highlight to discuss about the related to the presentation and also for the paper. The first part in terms of within the framework of human resource development, because if you look at back the in the study of human development, human capital development, the major concern here is all about the training, education. This is two things related to the economy, uh, plus with the health and etc. But here, how we can combine with the conventional study of human capital with the element of Islamic, because you are highlighting about spiritual element, religious element, which eventually for me, how to combine all these two elements, which eventually can be measured, okay, can be measured and analyzed as a one framework of human resource, Islamic human capital development, measurable. Okay, that's a number one. And within that capacity, maybe we can plotting or mapping with the paper. Okay, that's the first comment and the issue that I want to, the things that I want to highlight. And the second one is about the how we can have some sort of the governance. Okay, the governance structure in the Islamic microfinance institution in order to mitigate fraud. Okay, that's another element, because when we have the governance structure properly, okay, when we have the governance structure properly, and I believe the human resource will follow the structure. If the human resource follow the structure, follow the guidelines, follow the procedures, etc., and I believe we can mitigate or resolve the issue of fraud. So putting the governance structure of Islamic microfinance perhaps can mitigate the issue of with the combination of Islamic human capital development in order uh, to to mitigate the fraud issue within Islamic microfinance. So that's the two things that I want to highlight based on your paper and also your presentation. All right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hakimi.
Yeah.
Please, Miss Yuli, to answer or give the feedback.
So how to collaboration and apply the religious and spiritual aspect in their activity. So the BTM applied and try to creating an Islamic environment, such as in their operational activities, such as they conducted how to say kajian consistently, kajian or ceramah consistently, and they did some schedule about the Islamic activities, such as they try to make all of human resource to do this activity because they embedding the Islamic values in their or apply the Islamic values in their regulations. Such as they have to do a tadarus activity schedule for duha and some other solat prayer activity and giving advice or motivation for superior. So I think because maybe Mr. Widianto want to edit my comment.
Okay, thank you, Yuli, for my opportunity to answer. Actually, BTM has the structure for monitor the human resource, yeah, by giving some activity like Islamic teaching, and coordinated by one department of the BTM. So he has continually actually to encourage the employee to making a good performance by improving the akhlak and improving the faith, iman, and activity of ibadah and so on. So actually, BTM have a structure of development, but only the time is maybe still on minimum, yeah, in minimum stage of the development of human capital. That is a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Widi and Mrs. Yuli Indasari. Mr. Muhammad Hakimi, any feedback or comment? Okay, if there is no from Mr. Hakimi, so to the audience or attendees, any question? This is the question and answer session. Any question from participants to Mr. Ruidi and Ms. Yuli about their research in IMVI, internal fraud prevention, with Islamic human capital development base? This
Brother
okay.
Retas.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, Dr. Yulizar.
Okay, thank you, Brother Retas. I'm trying to have a similar comment actually with Dr. Hakimi relating the issue of governance. So I do agree that the issue of governance is very much in line with the issue of fraud. So there's some risk actually when we are doing business, including, of course, including Islamic microfinance institution. So there are so many risks that has been addressed as well by Dr. Kartiko in the morning, as well as addressed also by Dr. Askaria. Let's say regarding the operational risk, Sharia risk, and so forth and so on. so many risks that actually could be mapped, including the issue of fraud. So my question is, what sort of fraud uh, that actually this study or the research is trying to focus on? Let's say in the issue of what adverse selection for mitigating or for selecting the potential members or the potential what we call it customer, for example. So within this process, we could say that the fraud is essentially within the issue of operational risk. So actually, so many fraud that could be mapped within the overall business of the Islamic microfinancial institution, including any other Islamic financial business. So I'm trying to have a further explanation. What kind of fraud that actually try to explain by this paper, so that we can say this kind of fraud is actually within the issue of operational risk, or it is about the what the lack of the let's say SOP, standard operational procedure. Yes, the presenter or the researcher is clearly explained regarding the role of standard operational procedure, but then I lack information regarding the what kind of fraud that actually happen in this particular cases. How many BMT? 7 or 8 BMT for the case study in this research. Okay, that's all, Brother Retas. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Dr. Yulizar.
May I continue? I have a similar question with Dr.
Okay.
Yulizar.
Okay.
Regarding
Please
what
continue.
type of fraud? Okay. So
Okay.
what type of fraud that you categorize in the study, especially in the microfinance? I'm sure that in your governance structure, you have this code of ethics. I'm sure that you have that. And then in this code of ethics, normally we will segregate the cases of fraud according to the types of fraud. Either you have a minor or you have a major fraud. Because each have a different way how we can handle it. I mean, from the perspective of governance, we have a different way to handle this type of because it's like dosa kecil, dosa besar kan. How do you handle that? It's a major, it's a or minor fraud. Okay. This is very important. You need to have to clearly define that in the governance, especially in your code of ethics. Okay. And I'm sure that, again, as mentioned by Dr. Hakimi, in relation to this, how do you mitigate? Again, this is also an issue in their governance. Okay, how do you mitigate that? Okay, if there is a small, sorry, it is a minor or this is a major, you have a different way to mitigate that fraud. Okay, this is again on how you handle that. And of course, go back to your how to recruit your staff. So initially, the problem is how do you handle that? How do you recruit your staff? This is a problem that normally we are facing when we select the staff, is whether we select the limau kecut atau limau manis. So in the end, we want to segregate that. I mean, to the ROC internal system, you want to avoid this. You want to have this sweet orange only. You don't want the sour orange, right? Okay, in order to avoid that fraud cases. Thank you very much, Pak Amjad.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abdul Ghaffar Ismail and Dr. Yulizar. So it's a lot of question and discussion and feedbacks. So Miss Yuli and Mr. Widianto, any answer or comment?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zuljar and Prof. Ghaffar, relating your question and my suggestion. Yeah, I agree with the Dr. Zulizar and Prof. Ghaffar relating the uh, operational frauds. Yeah, operational risk. Yeah. Fraud as the part of operational risk. But and the we have the find that the part of the operational risk is the human resources risk. So this research focus on the human resources risk because it is very important here. The risk can that's caused by the human in this MFI. That's very essential here. So we focus on the how the reduce the risk caused by the human in this institution. And Prof. Afar also said that to reduce the fraud can be start from the selecting the employee from this institution. Yes, it is true. Yeah, it's true. That's maybe the BTM Baitul Mal Muhammadiyah also in effort to reduce the fraud, they start from the selecting the employee before he take a job in this institution. I think it's a focus the part of from the operation risk as human resources risk. I think so. May Yuli will to add the clarification.
So, fraud consists by two sources. They are internal source and external source by December 2000. He explained that internal fraud it is happened because carried out by the human resource. So that's why Mr. Widianto said that fraud risk it is became part of people risk, and people risk became part to the operational risk in IMFI. So because our object is Baitul Tambil Muhammadiyah or BTM focus in Tambil activities. So the fraud it is happen in the field of saving and financing, Prof. So we found major fraud in here, and we focus in internal fraud that did by the human resource who owned by the PTM. And actually, we found that a selected human resource is became part of first step to be part of preventing fraud in PTM. But we want to focus in the developing of human resource. So that's why we in this paper we more explore about develop human capital developing in this institution. So I agree with Prof. Yulizar and Prof. Ghaffar that the governance structure it is very important to be part of preventing fraud in the PTM. And we found that it is very important to explore more in the future. So I am very appreciate the suggestion and question from the participant, and I will improve my article based on the suggestion. Okay, thank you. Give back to Mr.
Okay.
Retas.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Yuli and Mr. Widianto. Any other comment on feedback from Dr. Yulizar and Prof. Abdul Ghaffar Ismail? Or enough?
I'm enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Abdul Ghaffar, also enough or any other comment? Okay, if there is no, maybe the last question from audience or participants, any question to this paper or this presentation from Ms. Yuli?
Right. Assalamualaikum.
Oh, Waalaikumsalam. Okay, Dr. Aliu.
Yeah, just quick one regarding one of the variables I have seen, the Islamic environment. So I'm wondering what is the definition of Islamic environment? Assuming we want to apply this framework in a maybe where Muslims are not majority or where the environment is not that Islamic, how could this model be applied? If they can elaborate, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aliu. So Miss Yuli.
So Islamic environment in this paper, it is refers to the all policies and regulation to make activity refer to Islamic values. Some as they suggest they apply to make a schedule to did a kajian, how to say regular study about Islamic economic, how they can apply the schedule of a prayer, duha prayer, and also five prayer time. And they did also to build environment did by all parties. They try to embedding the Islamic values in their activity and regulations. And the role model in here, it is a manager, of course, manager and the director of its PTM. So they try to build the Islamic culture in here. Such as they try to reminding each other in kindness. They try giving advice, motivation by TPS, Dewan Pengawas Syariah, and from the manager in their institution. So Islamic environment refers to the all policies and regulation to apply the Islamic values in their activity, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Yuli. So this is also maybe the last question from this session. And now I will give time from Mrs. Yuli to give the closing about your presentation.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity from the organizer, from Mr. Ratas, and all of participant discussion, and all of presenter in here. I hope I can improve my article based on the good suggestion from such as from Dr. Julizar, Prof. Abdul Ghaffar, and Dr. Hakimi, and another Dr. Aliyu also. And very thank you for the suggestion. And I'm receive the suggestion and appreciate. So that's all. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Yuli. From Mr. Widi.
Yes, only thank you for your comment, your suggestion. So inshallah we'll improve the paper better. Okay. Inshallah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Yuli and Mr. Widianto from Sultan Agung Islamic University. And we come to the last session. We will also discuss about how integrating the theory and empirical data in microfinance, poverty, and Islam. The case is in Nigeria. This interesting topic will be presenting by Mr. Solio Hamzat and will be discussion by Mr. Khalid Ahmed from IDB. And Mr. Solio Hamzat is from the Economic Department from Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria. Mr. Solio Hamzat, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me also?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you. So,
Hello, can you hear
and
me?
yeah,
Yes.
yes, okay,
Okay.
yep, okay, and Mr. Khalid Ahmed.
Can I share my screen?
Okay, Mr. Khalid Ahmed.
Can I share my
Khalid is
screen?
not there.
I'm sorry, Mr. Solio. Mr. Khalid Ahmed is not here. Um,
After presentation, we can go straight to Q&A.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, and then
Hello, I'm finding challenge sharing my
okay, so
screen.
Mr. Soleh Hamzat, you can presenting
Okay.
your presentation.
Can you see my screen now?
Just
Waiting.
started. It's
Waiting. Still waiting.
You can share screen again, Mr. Solyu.
Hello, can I share my screen? Are you seeing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just share
Okay.
your screen.
Can I go on, please? If you are seeing my screen.
No, we can't see you.
We haven't seen your screen.
Mr. Salu, I think you have to click the share button after you
Okay.
share.
Yes.
Have you seen it now?
Then done.
Yeah. Thank you. Salaam
You can
alaikum wa rahmatullah.
You can maximize by putting the F5 or like put it full screen, please. Sorry.
Full screen, yeah.
I think it's maximized here. Can I go on, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. My name, as introduced, is Soli Hamza from Economics Department, Ahmad Bello University, Zaria. This paper, titled Integrating Theory and Empirical Data, specifically on microfinance, poverty, and Islam in Nigeria. This paper is actually motivated by the novelty and the idea of Islamic microfinance that has taken center stage across the world. Unfortunately, here in Nigeria, the country actually is divided mainly into the south and the north. The north is a region that is dominated by Muslims, while the South, of course, have Muslim, but mainly dominated by non-Muslims. The idea of this paper is to show that, look, financial exclusion is happening in the North. Several reports have showed that adults exclude themselves from financial services in the North because of the Sharia, because of the dictate of the Quran and what Islam teaches. Unfortunately, should I say, poverty rate in the North is relatively higher than the South. To add to this, the North has potentials for agriculture than the South, yet poverty is high. And in recent times, banditry and other social vices have taken center stage. So this is what motivates actually this work. So what is the problem? Like I said earlier, financial inclusion and financial exclusion happening in a region that has potential for agriculture. The legal authority have not given provisions for the establishment of non-interest microfinance institutions in Nigeria. Yes, we could say that there are guidelines for microfinance generally, but they are not unique or peculiar to Islamic microfinance. So, and in line, coupled with this, we see poverty on one hand, we see financial exclusion, especially of the poor, and on the other, in the same note, against the South that is a bit better in terms of income, in terms of other some of these people, whether there is some sort of nexus between these two variables. Poverty on one hand, exclusions from financial services, especially for the poor, microfinance in particular, on the other. Yeah, this paper make use of, yes, this is data I'm about. You see on this chart, microfinance in the South, quite high, while that of the number of microfinance in the South, of course, is about 65%, while we have in the North is 35%, despite that population in the North is far more than have in the country, according to several population census. Poverty rate, you could see in the North, very high compared to the South, and Islam, majority of faithfuls are also higher in the North. So this is the situation we find ourselves that make us to think, could it be that we having lower rate of microfinance that is in an Islamic dominated community that is resulting into this high rate of poverty? Yes, we make use of two approaches. Basically, we did a graphical plot of the number of microfinance in the North against poverty. We also did number of another of microfinance in the North against branches of commercial bank to be able to show whether there's a section of the country that has comparative advantage in a particular financing model. Our result actually for these plots, of course, these plots are just our entry point to the studies to show that, look, if you observe across the state, there are 36 states in the country. The trend of number of microfinance is indirectly related to the trend of poverty head count. As number of microfinance rises for across a cross section of microfinance that we took across the 36 states, we find out that the rate of poverty declined in that manner. This shows that as poverty increases across, a number of microfinance banks increases across, poverty actually decreases. The second plot that we showed is the graphical plot of the spread of microfinance and poverty.
Hello, Mr. Soliu. Mr. Soliu. Okay, the connection.
Problem, yeah.
Yeah, there's problem in Mr. Soliu connection, so we wait for his come back to this Zoom meeting. maybe for the committee or the organizer, uh, can you contact Mr. Soliu?
Okay. Okay. Yes. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
Don't have any idea to discuss his paper.
Okay.
Because the
Or maybe
present-
any other discussion
Yeah.
about other topic from Mr. Widi, or topic from our
Finance.
sister Wahida, or
okay.
We are waiting for Dr. Aliu to say something about microfinance in Nigeria.
Oh, assalamualaikum, bro.
Assalamualaikum.
Yeah. Mr. Salihu tries to show the relationships between poverty and microfinance in Nigeria. He has shown that the country is largely divided between Muslim North and South, where the Christians dominate. So he's trying to say that in the North, the microfinance, because it's not Sharia compliant, so Muslims do not subscribe to the microfinance largely. And also, yes, and also the number of microfinance in the North is still very low. I quite agree with him. The microfinance in probably the North has maybe only 20% of the total microfinance in the country.
You mean the penetration rate?
Yes, the penetration rate.
Okay.
So, because I think in one study we conducted way back in 2013, out of 900 microfinance, only 200 were in the North.
What was the problem?
Yeah, okay. One problem is there are many problems. Number one, the Sharia compliance or lack of it, because Muslims are averse to interest, as we all know. So Muslims really don't want to conventional microfinance. Number two, there is of literacy, financial literacy. Do we get Salihu back?
Not yet.
Okay. So the issue of financial literacy, because in addition to the Sharia compliance issue, actually in the South, the Christian South, it's unfortunate that more banks, more financial institutions, more educational institutions. So when it comes to financial literacy, financial education, the South are leading, you know. So this is also another factor that is making the North to not having more finance related banks. And also he tried to show my only worry is that the link he began to show the chart, he showed the nexus between microfinance and poverty. He shown a chart which showed that where the microfinance is higher, the poverty is lower. So I'm just worried that the number of microfinance is still very small to make significant impact in the total overall poverty data, which is dealing with over 200 million people.
Yeah.
So, but I was waiting to hear more from Mr. Salihu before the line cut off. So that is and I'm also very interested to hear how he wants to approach the issue, so that at the end of the day, we can see more applications of microfinance or Islamic microfinance. But also one important thing that I want to suggest to him is that in Nigeria, there is, unlike he stated, the bank does not do not provide the the guidelines. That is that's guidelines under the CBN Act. Guidelines actually, it allows for the operation of other banks, including Islamic. So other banks, including Islamic banks and also microfinance banks. So in fact, we have there are currently three licenses issued to Islamic microfinance in Kano, in Bauchi, and one more in Katsina State. So these are all.
It is a subsidiaries of the bank.
Yeah, they are subsidiary. Actually, they are independent microfinance banks.
I see.
So they are being given the license to operate based on this framework of the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, and they are operating. But of course, you can see since the first one was issued, I think in 2015 or 14, you just got additional two recently, maybe in 2018. Yeah, both of them around 2018. So that's very not good development. The country where I think every state, every Muslim state should have at least no less than 5 microfinance banks. But you can see in the whole country, in the north, you have only 3 Islamic microfinance. And then you have over 800 conventional microfinance banks. So you can see how people are consummated in the riba.
Yeah. Okay. Understood. Yeah.
Dr. Aliyu.
Yeah, doctor.
How many independent MFI in Nigeria? Can you?
Independent. What do you mean, Dr. Widi? Independent? Independent from the bank or what?
Spread from the
CBN.
Bank, yeah. Bank.
You mean total banks, commercial banks?
No, independent microfinance that is not belong to the bank.
Oh, okay. The total microfinance bank, like I mentioned earlier, initially around 920, but then last year, due to governance issue, about 100 of them their licenses were revoked. So now you've got around 800. Hello, doctor?
Yeah.
So you've got around 800 in the country. So because of the governance issue. So we are promoting Islamic microfinance so that at least if you have more Islamic microfinance, they can serve the poor Muslims, and they can also, improve the life of non-Muslims because of the Sharia compliance. We know always it spread good in the society. So, but then still we are lagging behind in terms of getting more banks to accept and the more people to really open. And also, like I was telling Prof. Gafar, in the north, the factors that make us not have more microfinance banks, unfortunately, many of our people, they prefer businesses rather than opening banks or financial
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Ali, I have a question too.
Dr. Ali, yeah, please.
Yes. Well, I'm Harun from Ghana, just near you.
Harun, thank you. Welcome.
Yes. My question is in terms of human resource in this in the industry of Islamic banking and financing. How do you see the development in the the educational sector? I mean, the universities, are they really promoting Islamic banking and finance?
Oh, okay, Dr. Harun. You see, this is okay. General question on education. Yeah, I would say, of course, in Nigeria, we have the Center of Islamic Banking, Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, which opens masters and professionals program. And I would say that many of our, maybe over 40% of the staff of Jaiz banks have passed through this institute. Okay. Many of them, really. Like, let me give you an example. In Kano, where there are 5 branches of Jaiz Bank. The only, the first full-fledged. Now we have the second full-fledged Islamic bank. So in these 5 branches, all the 5 branch managers, we are our former students. Can you see? And also there are staff. There are many staff that, but I can understand your point. Since Nigeria, we have many educational institutions.
Yes.
Unlike in Malaysia or Indonesia, where you see many programs open for undergraduates, masters, many universities are opening. In Nigeria, we still have only few institutions actually that are offering Islamic banks. In Nigeria, only Institute of Islamic Banking that is having full-fledged degree. Recently, I heard about another one in Kasina.
We lost doctor.
We lost you.
If I may say something, I don't think it's necessary now for us to constrain ourselves within our countries when we are talking about knowledge. Somebody can study Islamic finance from Nigeria when you are in, when your teachers are in Malaysia. I'm actually doing my studies from.
Okay. Wahida, you want to finish first?
Yeah, I was saying we shouldn't constrain ourselves, especially what COVID has taught us, by constraining ourselves in our own countries when we are thinking about gaining knowledge. Now you can be in Kenya and you can study via Malaysia. I am in Kenya, I am studying with students from China, from Iraq, from Indonesia, from Nigeria. We are all in the same class, but our teacher is in Malaysia. So geographical boundaries should not constrain our learning of Islamic finance.
A borderless world.
So,
yeah, Ali, you continue.
I can hear Sister Wahida making very valid point that geography should not be a barrier now. Now you are in Ghana, I'm in Nigeria, Prof is in Malaysia, and the other colleagues are in Kenya. We are now meeting in the same class and we are sharing knowledge actually. So we need to identify what specifically we need. And then there are many programs actually we can just subscribe to one. And probably this organization of Islamic studies, economic studies, and thought also could think towards maybe more collaborations so that to drag us. Sometimes we are overburdened with a number of students here in Nigeria and in Africa. So some of the programs that need to be developed, they are not moving very fast because of the obvious reasons. You know what I mean? In Malaysia, the ratio of student teacher is very low, while in Nigeria it's very high. So that these are things, the factors that is not making, allowing us to make progress fast as other countries. So this is what I can say regarding the education. All the same, inshallah, soon we will reach Ghana. Brother, if you are in Ghana, we will reach Accra on the 9th to 11th to spread the knowledge of Islamic finance. I give you special invitation to come to our program on workshop, specialized 2-day workshop on Islamic banking and finance. And this is collaboration between Triple IT West Africa, where I am assisting the coordinator, and also our Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, Triple IBF, and Said Academy. I'm sure you know Said Academy, and Islamic Finance Research of Ghana. So these are the 4 partners. I give you special invitation. You can contact me later. If you are interested, then you can join the program, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Definitely, I'm very, interested. But for the meantime, I'm now in Malaysia, by the way. So,
okay.
Yes. I'm studying here in Malaysia, doing my, PhD. So I don't have much information about the development of, Islamic finance there, in West Africa. Not that much, because I left home very long time. And so, well, yes, it will be very, helpful to get in touch with you. Sure. Thank you very much for Your explanation.
Dr.
Yes.
Adio, we can have the
Now,
similar one workshop next year in Cairo.
in Bairo, yeah, we can propose, Prof, and then we
Yeah.
get approval. And the last time you was here in Bairo, I think you
Yeah,
came
Bairo,
very
yeah.
early in 2012 or 2013 maybe, or 14. You came here, you visited us, and then you can see the interest people have shown. But we need more collaborators, more support.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Prof.
Atiko, yes.
Yes. When we will go to there, you must.
Inshallah.
Take
Yeah.
me
You're all welcome.
together.
You're all welcome. At least you need to compensate me, because every 2 years I used to come to Indonesia, Bogo, Jakarta, yeah. So Malaysia a number of times. So you need to come to Nigeria, inshallah.
Where is our friend, Dr. Solio? Missing there.
Missing network, maybe trouble there.
Yeah.
Has he shared his paper with you?
No. Dr. Widi,
Like,
he shared the PowerPoint with us, or the paper?
Paper of
Yeah, they share with the paper with us, but not the PowerPoint.
Okay. Had it been to say we know them?
he sent only the paper, not the PowerPoint to us.
But Dr. Ahmad is supposed to discuss the paper. Is he with us?
No, Dr. Ahmad is not with us. Khalid
Ahmad.
Khalid.
If Khalid is with us, so
Yeah.
why not him tell us more about the body of the paper and the point it's made, and then perhaps we can raise questions. Otherwise, I suggest we move to the next agenda.
Okay, Mr. Widi. So you share the paper and we discuss, or how?
Oh, Prof.
Hamzah, they call me.
Yeah.
Hello, Hamzah. Hello. Hamzah. Are you there, Hamzah? Hamzah. What kind of problem?
Maybe he's trying to reach out, or maybe he's
yeah.
Just give him a few minutes.
Okay.
So are you trying to put all the papers and summarize, or put it like a book, Prof?
But then
are you trying to develop the papers into a book or manual or something like that?
Yeah. We are going to publish the article in a chapter in books.
Okay,
in book,
good.
Inshallah, we are trying to engage with the good publisher to publish the article, our article.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
Actually,
with your support.
I think he did the same workshop. I attended the same workshop in 2011, Prof, in Kabansa. Is it the same?
In
similar workshop?
On what? Where is it?
When you did workshop on Islamic
Microfinance in 2000.
Similar idea. 11 maybe, or 10.
Yeah, we have already published that. Can you contact me that one?
Okay. All right. Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I will. That's good. Alhamdulillah.
Dr. Ali, how can I get your email?
All right. I will share.
Okay.
Just now I'm talking to my colleague, Dr. Yuliza.
I'll share the articles, Dr. Suryo.
Okay.
I will share with everyone here.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Widi.
Okay. There's the abstract of the article. Yeah. Any comment? The first I try to read the abstract maybe, so we can know the summarize of the article. Brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nigerian Muslims have lived without adequate legal and regulatory provision for microfinance institutions that are specially targeted at their particular needs. Islam forbids usury and interest, and majority of poor Muslim in Nigeria avoid both conventional commercial and microfinance bank mainly to abide by dictates of their religion, Islam. Southerners live closer to the country's financial sector and do not exclude themselves from it like the Northerns. Like the Northerns, meanwhile, and the literature is replete that with the lots of evidence in favor of finance for growth and finance for poverty alleviation. Poverty rates is higher in the north than in the south. This research crafted a microeconomics model to examine the aggregate importance of microfinance on its region of the country with the aim of explanation the difference in poverty rates between the region. GeoGebra is the mathematical software used the simulation that of Douglas production model used to show the aggregate impact of microfinance bank in the country. The result of the analysis show that the prevalence of microfinance bank in the south over the north can explain the difference in the rate of poverty between the two regions. Critical mass of the Sharia compliant microfinance is recommended for the north to bridge the gap observed in the poverty rate between the region. As the abstract of the article from the Dr. Saliu.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good effort. I have read the after and I listened to Doctor. Just like I started to say, he shown that in the south there are more. In fact, one point he raised here is that the south is a financial center. You see, the Lagos was the former capital of Nigeria. So all the federal government and also the commercial, I mean the how do you call it? The main actors such as stock exchange and other financial centers, they are actually there in Lagos. So because of that, you can see the finance and the poverty in the area. So while in the north, you have very limited. For instance, in Kano is okay, but in many other neighboring states, in the north, actually. So, and also with the averse to interest rate, Muslims don't want to borrow on interest. So they prefer to use their money, put it in business rather than deal with interest. Muslims, hundreds, thousands, Muslims, millions dealing with you cannot avoid dealing with banks. Actually, sometimes you say darura, but the problem is that if you live darura, there is no limit. Then
in general, Muslim in Nigeria avoid the interest, brother. Hello.
People don't want to. People will not.
Connection.
Go ahead, doctor. I thought we lost you, but go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the interesting part, he said that they developed a model, macroeconomic model, using simulation. So this is, he allayed my fear, because my initial worry was that if he is using this micro data and very small number of microfinance banks, comparing it with a large number of poverty, which is developed over a period of time, and then to show the relationship between this small number of microfinance banks and their impact on poverty, I'm worried. But probably the simulation method he used Cobb-Douglas production function, he used simulations. I need to see the detail, but it seemed to be interesting to show that maybe he controls some variables that could enable us to see the impact of those areas where microfinance are concentrated on poverty, and the areas where there is no concentration of microfinance and we see the poverty is becoming high. And finally, he recommended that since this is a situation, there should be critical mass, critical Sharia compliance. There is need for, he says, critical mass of Sharia compliant microfinance banks in the north to bridge the gap. I think this is what we have been saying all the while, that let us have more Islamic microfinance banks. Let us open more institutions. Let us open more cooperatives. For instance, now in BUK, Bayero University, Kano, because we wanted to show a model. So we developed Sharia compliant cooperative society, which controls huge millions of naira currently, subscribed by members of the staff, about 600 of them, operating based on Islamic principle. We don't want to go to the conventional financial institutions to borrow money, but rather we develop a cooperative society because it's flexible. So we need to have more of these initiatives, whether microfinance banks or Islamic cooperative societies. They will help Muslims to comply with their religion, and at the same time, to use the finance to develop, because we know the relationship between finance and economic growth. If we are involved in finance, the poverty is likely to go down, as argued by the paper. So I think this is very good paper, and I would recommend maybe to share the paper with us. Perhaps we can give more insights. But the only thing I didn't see, he said integration. I don't know. The title was saying integration of Islamic microfinance. So, and something, I don't know. I need to see that part, because I think we have done a lot of integration works, And I'm wondering if Brother Salihu has come up with something new or is building upon what is in existence in the literature. That will be interesting to see, so that at the end of the day, it will be something that we will put heads together and develop the Islamic microfinance industry in Nigeria. So these are what I can say, Prof. and other colleagues, panelists, participants. I now become the Salihu spokesperson.
Thank you, brother.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Aliu. It's very interesting about the topic in Nigeria. Maybe any discussion from other participants?
Can I have give a?
Oh, okay, Mr. Soliu, Mr. Hamzat here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Hello.
Hello. Okay.
I stopped the share, brother.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Am I on now?
we can hear you.
Um, yes, unfortunately, you may not be able to see the slide because of some technical challenges. I can just present with this device. As I was saying, sorry, I'm very sorry for the technical issues I had in the last 20 to 30 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Yes, through I was at the point of telling us about the problem of the research, which is, are we trying to find a relationship, or there's any between the state of poverty in northern Nigeria and financial exclusion that is happening, especially at the lower level among the poor. Data show, as I was showing us from the slide earlier before we had the problem, data show that microfinance in Nigeria are dominated in the south, whereas the north has only very few of them. Lagos State, for instance, one of the states in southern Nigeria, has more microfinance than the entire north. When we look at the poverty rates, for instance,
Mr. Salu, can you switch off your video? Probably it will enhance the network. If you just turn off your video and speak, the thing is maybe better.
Can you hear me now? Is the audio clear?
Yeah, the audio clear, but maybe you can turn off your videos so your voice will be more clear.
Is that okay now?
Well, the suggestion is that if you could turn the video off, perhaps the audio would be better, because right now actually it's a bit shaky. So if you could, yeah, perhaps you could turn the video off. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it better? Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Better.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So that is the problem. Then, of course, the literature shows that financial inclusions improves growth, and by extension, poverty, where the distribution is even. That is what the literature shows. So the underlying theory guiding our research is the poverty, growth, and distribution triangle. That's what we are trying to look at between the north and the south in Nigeria. So we use two approaches. We plot the data on graph. What is the data that we plotted? Microfinance banks and poverty rates. What we observe from the plot is an indirect relationship. As poverty rates, as microfinance increase across the country for communities or states where microfinance, the number of microfinance banks are high, you see poverty rates are quite low. For communities or states where the number of microfinance banks are low, you see poverty rates are very high. We also try to look at whether each of the states have comparative advantage in a particular financial model. Microfinance bank tends to, then we plotted the number of microfinance banks by state against the number of the branches of commercial banks. What we saw is that the same kind of trend we saw in the first picture where we have several microfinance banks. We saw also several, for communities where we have several microfinance banks, we also saw several branches of commercial bank in those communities compared to the communities where we have fewer microfinance banks. It turned out to be that the states where we have lower branches of commercial bank are these northern states where the poverty rate is still high. So we didn't see any kind of discrimination or any kind of comparative or preference for a particular financial model in the country. The same way the South would have preferred to have microfinance bank, the same way they have commercial bank. The same thing for the North. So you can see in both scenarios, the North is worse off financial in terms of financial institution, for whether for microfinance or whether for commercial bank. So that's what the descriptive data showed. Now we did some simulation. We did macro modeling of the North and the South. We used the aggregate production function by Cobb Douglas to model production in the North, production in the South, and population rate across the country. So we had like three simultaneous equations there. Of course, it is the rate of change of each of those functions that we actually specified. We use a software, GeoGebra, to compute a time trend of each of these variables. The first variable is the rate of change of output in the South. The second is the rate of change of output in the North. Then the third is the rate of change of population across the country. So when we plotted this, we now did some scenarios. In each of the functions, for example, for the production function for the South, we played around with the microfinance services. We increased the value of the variable that is associated with microfinance services and increase it for the South and see what will happen to the output in the North. That is the first scenario. The second scenario was that we played around with the variable, the technology variable or a productivity variable, for instance, for both regions. What we found was that, to show whether high productivity would increase output for the North, despite that there is a very low level of financial institution. That's the second scenario. The third scenario is to also lower the amount of microfinance we have in the South, to see if whether it is the microfinance that the preponderance of microfinance that we have in the South that is making the South to have that advantage of poverty, lower level of poverty against the North. So we increased, for instance, the amount of the magnitude of microfinance in the North and lower that of the South. That is the third scenario. The fourth scenario, we because the North has the higher population than any of the sector, and where, of course, labor intensive tend to be most of the kind of production that happened there compared to the South that has more financial institution. So we increase the quality of labor for the North and see what will happen to the entire output for that region and compared to the South. We did the same for the South, but in this case, it is the capital variable that we increase for the South to see whether the South, because of the advantage of a financial institution, could have more outputs than the North. We also, the sixth scenario was to look at the productivity and the elasticity of capital and labor for both. We made a slight adjustment for elasticity of capital and labor to even them to see whether the elasticity is an issue in our. So those are the scenarios we have. These are the various scenarios we have. So what is the result that we came up with? What are the results, for instance, that we came up with? The first scenario where we increase the variable for microfinance for the South against the North, we observed that the trend, because actually what we plotted was a time trend, and that is the result it's just the graphical plot, a pictorial plot for you to see it on graph, time trend of output against time, and output against time for each of the scenarios. That's what we actually plotted. What we observed for the first scenario was where the variable for microfinance is increased for the South. We find out that at every time, the South has higher output than the North, all true. Has higher output than the North, all true. For the second scenario, where, hello? Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
Yeah, you're.
Yes, please.
Yeah, yes, okay. Yeah, for the second scenario where we increase the productivity variable, what we observed was that there is no significant change between what we have between the South, between the difference in the output, actually. There are, but not really significant, because the productivity for the North actually increased than it used to be when the variable for productivity was lower. Variable for productivity at the beginning in the first scenario was 0.7. We increased it to 1.1 for both, and we find out that the North increased marginal increase in productivity compared to what it recorded when there were when productivity was low generally for the two regions. Then the third scenario, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the third scenario we looked at, we lowered microfinance for the South, and the result showed that the productivity for the North, where microfinance, where we played around and looked at higher microfinance for the North, even though it is not in real world, but for finance, what would be the potential? The potential actually shows that there are more, the output for the North is high in the South. So that is scenario 3. Yes, for scenario 4, where we lower the quality of the deepening of labor for the North and that of capital for the South by 50%. The result of the estimation show that there's a relatively high rate of output per capita in the North than the South, meaning that it is the amount of financial institution that the South has that is giving it that advantage over the North. Because when we reduce the deepening for labor for the North and capital for the South, we observe that the North has a relative advantage over the South. Yes, we now went to an extreme situation where we take up financial services completely for the South. That is microfinance completely for the South, and observe this situation, and we find out that the North also has relative advantage in output. So what is our conclusion and what's from this? No doubt, between the South and the North, there is no discriminatory preference for whether commercial bank or micro. They are equally preferred by both regions. That is what, of course, our pictorial graph, descriptive graph showed at the beginning. But the scenarios, 1 to 5 or 6 scenarios that we painted, the result of the simulation, of course, gives a preliminary indication. There's preliminary indication that there's difference in the number of microfinance banks between the South and the North. Of course, we've said that. The amount of microfinance banks we have in the South gives the South an edge over the North, despite the potentials of the North, mainly in agriculture, because agriculture is what drives the output of the entire economy. The North has that advantage, yet is not doing as much as in output as much as the South would do. And so far, it is the financial, especially the microfinance in particular, that accounts for this difference from the simulations we have done. So we recommend that make efforts to improve significantly the licensing of microfinance bank, the type of microfinance bank the North would prefer, because it's obvious from data, official data showed that the North exclude themselves from anything that has to do with non-interest, and anything that has to do with non-interest, adults in the North exclude themselves there. And yet they have potentials for agriculture, which is the main driver of the economy. So it is recommended here that the monetary authority should give provisions and guidelines that will make non-interest microfinance banks to flourish in the North. So that is our recommendation. I'm very sorry for the changes, for the hitches I have with technology. I've not been able to demonstrate it using the slide, and for time wasted, please, I urge everybody to accept, to please kindly bear with me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Soliu Hamzat, for your presentation, for your research in integrating theory and empirical data in microfinance, poverty, and Islam in Nigeria. And because there is no discussion from Mr. Khalid Ahmed, but before the presentation from Mr. Soliu Hamzat, the participant is discussed about your topic, about your paper. So maybe any discussion, feedback, or question from all the participants. Maybe Dr. Aliu or Prof. Abdul Ghaffar or Mr. Harun.
Okay. If Prof want to start, it's okay, but otherwise I can okay. Chip in to make some few comments. All right, thank you very much. Let me congratulate the author, my colleague, Dr. Soliu Hamza, for this interesting paper. We have actually, while he was on break, we also discussed at least the abstract, And based on what you started presenting to us, I made some senses because they were wondering what point you want to make, and the network was not clear. So we discussed for almost 25 minutes about the paper. But specifically now, I am understanding some of the things that I was not clear before the break. That is about the simulation, the scenarios you have developed. They are very quite innovative using Cobdel glass. But I want to ask you, Dr. Salih, whether you have taken care of the technology aspect. You talk about labor intensive, the factor that is dominated in the north, and you talk about finance in the south. You talk about the distribution of microfinance in the south, in the north. Initially, my worry is that using small microfinance data to show the impact on poverty in the whole country with over 200 million, I'm worried. But now at least I know that it is simulation based on some scenario. So have you taken care of technology? And also another factor, have you taken care of human resource? Because even when you was on the break, there was a question about human resource development on Islamic finance in particular. These are very important. I want to hear from you before maybe other commentators.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
Dr. Aliu.
thank you so much. The issue of technology.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Soliu.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, there's a variable for technology in the model. Actually, in fact, it's one of the variable that we have the scenario for. Where at the beginning, we estimated it to be less than unity, of course, less than perfect, less than what it could be to for both for what we have for labor and capital. You know, you have to have a level of technology, a minimum level of technology that will be complementary with what we have as labor and capital. So we have a variable for it in the model. Is one of the scenarios we actually painted that, okay, if the technology is low, what will be the situation? If the technology is a bit high, what will be the situation between the north and the south? And of course, what we find out that when the technology is a bit high, and the north recorded a higher level of output than it used to be. That is not to say that output is higher than and that's in that of the south, in the presence of large amount of microfinance in the south. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Soliu. Any other question from the participant?
Brother,
okay, please, Mr. Widi.
Dr. Soliu, you use the Douglas model, you right?
Yes.
And you also use the technology as a input in this model. So can you tell me about the efficiency, the use of technology relating the microfinance in your model? It is effective for use.
Please, can you take that again, please? Please, can you take that again? Can you take that again? I didn't hear it clearly.
Okay.
Pardon, please.
Rather use the Douglas model. Yeah. Douglas model and
yes, we use Douglas models to yes. Yeah.
You can calculate the rate of efficiency by using Douglas model, right?
So he's talking to you.
Wow, wow.
He's
I
asking.
didn't hear what you said at the beginning. The line.
Whether
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said at the beginning. The line broke when you started talking.
Okay, yeah. I think what he was saying was that the model you use, and you say yes, So it's asking whether you have used the model to calculate
Hello?
the level of
Can you hear me?
efficiency.
Yeah, we hear you.
Hello, Dr. Salihu, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the point, Doctor,
I can hear you.
the point he's making is that using Cobb-Douglas model, you should be able to calculate the efficiency, the technology in particular, and its efficiency in relation to other variables. Have you been able to take care of that? Have you calculated the efficiency of technology?
You got me.
I think they...
Sorry. Sorry. I am not estimating the model. It is not an econometrics model, it's a mathematical model. Cobb-Douglas is saying, sorry, it's not an econometrics model, it's a mathematical model. The Cobb-Douglas is used here as, for example, for the South, the rate of change of output over time in the South. The same thing for the North, the rate of change of output. So now, the problem before us now is now to integrate the model and come up with output over time. That is our focus. It's a scenario. It is not that we have collected data. It is not the time series data we have collected. We are trying to establish the time relationship itself, and not that we are estimating coefficients. We have coefficients that we are using in our scenarios into the model, and using GeoGebra, a mathematical model, to simulate and come up with outputs as a function of time. As a function of time, that is what we did with that output. It's not actually an econometrics model; it's a mathematical model. So even efficiency, even what's it called, technology, it's, we inputted the value into it, and after the computation of the model, that okay, if technology is this much, then what will happen to output as a function of time? So that is what we did actually. It's a mathematical model that it's a dynamic mathematical model we estimated, not econometrics, where we would need to come up with a level of efficiency and coefficient of each.
Excellent.
Am I clear, please?
Yes. Excellent.
Any other question, please, to improve our work?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Solio, for your answer. It's very clear about your mathematical model. And maybe any other question from the participant? Or we can stop this session in this time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Maybe I give a chance for Mr. Solio to give the closing about your paper. You can give your closing here.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your patience. Some of the questions were asked. I need to also emphasize in the discussion that it is actually an econometrics model. I think this is important. It's a contribution I've received. It should be clearly stated so that readers should know that, look, this is especially from the abstract, so that we cast our mind to a mathematical analysis simulation. Thank you so much. I appreciate the organizers of the conference for inviting me. Professor Gafar Ismail, I hold you in high esteem for bringing me into this room. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Seliu, and all the feedback and comment from participant and the question. So this is the last session, and we really appreciate your contribution to this last session. We have 3 papers to discuss. It's a very interesting topic and very good comment, question and answer from all the participants, all the scholars here. I really thank you for the organizer and the participants here. So maybe we can come to the closing remarks to the organizer. So Mr. Widianto or the team from Sultan Agung Islamic University, we move to the closing remarks. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Okay. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahilladzi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haq yudhhirahu ala dini kullih wa kafa billahi syahida. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Amma ba'du. The Honorable Rektor Universitas Islam Sultan Agung, Bapak Bejo Santoso PhD, the Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Universitas Islam Sultan Agung, Profesor Ulisya Fahrunisa, PhD, the Honorable Chairman of the Organization of Islamic Economics and Thought Center, Profesor Abdul Ghaffar Ismail, PhD, and the Honorable Manager of Perhimpunan BMT Institute, Dr. Kartiko. The respected all speaker, the expert in the field of Islamic microfinance, who come from various countries, from Tunisia, Yemen, Pakistan, Nigeria, Brunei Darussalam, Kenya, Malaysia, and Indonesia itself. And also respected all session chair, discussion, and all the participants who have participated in this workshop on the economics of Islamic microfinance under its finish. Alhamdulillah, praise the presence of Allah for all His blessing and gift, so that the workshop that discuss these 14 papers could go on smoothly without any significant obstacle. This workshop is an arena for exchanging the thought and information between Islamic microfinance experts from various countries. With this workshop, it is hoped that a new concept can be developed for the development of Islamic microfinance in the future, so that Islamic microfinance is more efficient and more effective in helping solve the problem of poverty that occurs in different parts of the world, improving the quality of the ummah, especially in the Islamic country. The result of this workshop are designed to be compiled into edited book chapter, hopefully published by international publication, which can be a place to preach the development of Islamic microfinance throughout the world and promote Islamic microfinance to empower the poor who really need a lot of assistance. Helping the poor based on the principle of Islamic justice. This is perhaps the spirit of Islamic microfinance. From the result of discussion at this workshop, and it can be noted several important things in my opinion. Firstly, Islamic microfinance is not like microfinance in general. Islamic microfinance has its own identity based on the principle of Tawhid. Secondly, Islamic microfinance still needs to be developed by taking experience from various places, either in doing hybrid or developing integrated model. Thirdly, Islam still face the many challenges that need to be resolved in the development of human resource based on Islamic value. We hope that this kind of workshop can be continued to work, which can become a gathering place for Islamic microfinance experts from around the world to exchange ideas to build an increasingly advanced Islamic microfinance. So we will continue engagement with practitioner, scholar, and research students by having workshop or RTD that we are planning to have it as our yearly event. Please to be together, and our presence will be benefit the Ummah. Relating this activity, the Center of Islamic Microfinance Universitas Islam Sultan Agung Semarang will try to take a role in these activities. Inshallah, I hope your dua all of the participants. On this occasion, we would like to thank to all speakers for the willingness to contribute their thought through this workshop. We also thanks to the chair session and discussion who have provided input, suggestion to the speaker for perfecting their articles. Thank you to the Rector and Dean of Faculty of Economics Unisula for provide support and implementation of this workshop. Thanks also to the participant who eagerly listen to this workshop. Before I end this speech, I would like to remind to the writer of the article to collect back article that have been corrected according to the discussion suggestion and participant within 2 weeks. Thank you for your time. We apologize. Maybe there are any shortcoming in organizing this workshop. Yeah. We end the workshop today by reading Hamdalah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, and reading Kafaratul Majlis prayer. Subhanallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu alla ila anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaih. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dr.
Thank you
Widi
very much.
and your team.
Okay.
Congratulations. Mabruk, mabruk,
Mabruk, mabruk. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
See you, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Prof. D. Dr. Widi.
Yes, Assalamualaikum. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much.
See you, Dr. Aliu.
Yes.
See you, Harun.
Alhamdulillah.
See you, Solio.
See you, Ustaz
Thank you,
Widi.
inshallah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you soon in
Thank you. See you.
Nigeria, Prof. Agi.
Inshallah, inshallah. Or in Ghana.
See you, Ustaz Julisar.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Okay.
Mas Dwi Cahyo, thank you.
Ya, alhamdulillah sehat Pak.
Setia sejak kemarin.
Iya. Pak Julisar sehat Pak.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Tadi dicariin Prof. Jai tadi nggak hadir. Dicewek rame-rame kita tadi.
Oh gitu, di mana ya?
Dr. Yuliza, right?
Guys.
Baik, izin live semuanya.
Ya,
Thank you.
Salam.